Most relationships are built on trust. But what happens when that trust is broken? It's Thanksgiving Day in San Francisco, and it starts as it always does, surrounded by family, good food, and the promise of quality time together. However, as dinner time draws closer, one thing becomes increasingly hard to overlook. There is a vacant seat at the table. A single mother of 5 has not arrived, and she isn't answering her phone. With each passing moment, the question intensifies, where is she? What happens when love becomes fatal? This is the Fatal Attraction Podcast with a Thanksgiving tragedy.
November 25th, 2004. It's Thanksgiving Day in San Francisco, California, one of the most beautiful cities in America.
There are lots of different cultural experiences that you can have.
You see an amazing food scene, a lot of beautiful architecture, a lot of local attractions, and there's a lot of money in the Bay Area.
And all that wealth comes at a price.
San Francisco is one of the most expensive cities in the country.
With the price of housing and everything else growing more and more unaffordable, people are leaving San Francisco.
Lots of families opt to live in Oakland, which is significantly less expensive.
What Brooklyn is to Manhattan, Oakland is to San Francisco. There's a bridge that separates the two. And many people who live in Oakland have roots and family in San Francisco.
When Linda Alonzo's family sits down for Thanksgiving dinner that evening in San Francisco,
I'm gonna try calling Linda again.
They're still waiting for her to arrive from her home across the bay in Oakland.
When they tried to reach out to her, there was no response. So they were kind of wondering what was going on.
You reached Linda. I'm unavailable. Leave a message and I'll get right back with you.
Linda, honey.
The turkey's out of the oven.
Eventually, the family carries on without her.
Maybe there was traffic. The Bay Bridge often has a lot of traffic, especially on a holiday.
But by the time they're finished eating, she still hasn't arrived.
Leave a message and I'll get right back with you.
Linda, call me when you get this. I saved your plate.
Hours go by. No sign of Linda. No phone call.
At that point, the family knew something was seriously wrong.
"48-year-old Cynthia Linda Alonzo spent most of her early years in San Francisco.
She grew up in a very close-knit family. They always called her by her middle name, Linda.
Linda came up from more of a hardscrabble life.
Linda grew up in a part of town that could be considered lower income, and her family really struggled.
But she had a family that loved her, a family that she spent a lot of time with.
They supported each other emotionally if they couldn't support each other financially.
And by the time Linda turned 30, she had her own family to support.
She had 5 children, and that really meant the world to her.
However, none of the children's fathers were really in their life.
Which is one reason why the single mother eventually left San Francisco behind, moving across the Bay Bridge to nearby Oakland.
This is actually extremely common, especially for people who were born around the time Linda was in the mid-50s. In San Francisco, we had a huge amount of Black displacement due to a redevelopment.
She ultimately found herself living here in Oakland because it's cheaper to live and there's a larger base of Black and working class people.
She was really looking forward to creating a different life for herself, a stable life, a better life.
Although it wasn't until Linda was in her 40s that things really started looking up for the single mom.
Her 5 children were getting older and they were starting to do their own thing.
Linda was finally able to spend a little time on herself.
She was optimistic, she was hopeful, she wanted a storybook romance.
Then she met Eric Mora.
Eric was a smart guy, handsome guy, well-educated, by all accounts, extremely charming.
Eric, in contrast to Linda, grew up in the lap of luxury. He received a large inheritance, which allowed him to afford a lifestyle that Linda could only imagine. Nice housing, fancy cars.
Given Linda's circumstances, it must have been amazing to meet this guy that was able to take her out and show her another side of life.
And it only got better from there.
Wait, is this your place?
Yeah, you gotta see it from the balcony.
Eric lived in a beautiful house that he owned in one of the Bay Area's most affluent neighborhoods, the Oakland Hills.
It's a beautiful area where most people would like to live because you get some nice views.
How'd you like it?
You kidding me? This place is gorgeous.
This must have seemed almost like a fairy tale situation, that this great guy with this beautiful house and all of these things going for him was interested in her.
They say opposites attract. This was that situation. Despite the difference between the way in which they grew up, they somehow found love together.
Not only had Linda found love, she'd also found the better life she'd been looking for ever since she moved to Oakland.
He was able to provide her with things that she had only dreamed about.
The couple grew even closer as Linda's kids grew up and left home.
She became a fixture in his life, and he became a fixture in hers.
Now, both of them were in their late 40s, which a lot of people might think is a hard time to meet someone and fall in love. So I'm sure it felt great to have love at that point in your life where a lot of people have already been established.
But now, just as it seemed Linda had so much to look forward to, she is a no-show for Thanksgiving dinner at her mother's house in San Francisco.
This is totally not normal for her to not show up to Thanksgiving dinner and also not call.
She also wasn't answering her phone.
Linda, please call me when you get this.
As the family's concern for Linda is growing, they decide to reach out to Eric.
When they got a hold of Eric,
Hello?
he seemed just as puzzled as they were about her disappearance.
What do you mean she didn't show up?
He said he hadn't seen her, and that was surprising to them.
But it's what he says next that's even more surprising.
To be honest, I haven't seen her in days.
A woman is missing. Calls have gone unanswered, and now the search for answers is now underway. Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
Our HBCUs have a legacy that's straight up golden. And McDonald's is proud to help keep it that way. Since 2021, the Golden Arches has connected with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund to provide $1 million in scholarships for students headed to our HBCUs. That kind of cash helps keep bright minds on the yard, dreams within reach, and the future golden. Learn more about McDonald's Black and Positively Golden scholarships at mcdblackscholars.com.
This night's been so amazing.
When she met Eric Mora, Linda Alonzo had finally found the love and support she'd always craved.
She spent most of her adult life as a struggling mother trying to get by.
When you are used to going without, that just creates that yearning so much more deeply in you.
He could provide for her and her family in a way that I'm not sure other people could have.
But now, she's missed her family's traditional Thanksgiving dinner, leaving them concerned that something is wrong.
This is someone who talks to her family on the phone every day.
Yeah?
When the family got a hold of Eric, he stated that he had not seen or heard from Linda.
To be honest, I haven't seen her in days.
He said he last seen Linda on Saturday when she came over to his house for dinner.
You think something happened to her?
I don't know.
But if you see her, please give me a call.
Yeah, of course.
On the phone, Eric seemed just as worried as Linda's family.
By the next morning, with still no word from Linda, the family decides to report her missing to the Oakland police.
The family had to go down to the police station and provide all the information they could. Pictures of Linda, who she's been with, and the last person that they knew had seen her, which was Eric.
The boyfriend.
Yes.
Was there any trouble there?
No, not at all.
However, the family also admits that things hadn't always been great for Linda.
The family ultimately had to explain Linda's background.
Linda's life wasn't always easy. She had times of trouble financially, times of trouble in terms of stability of housing.
And it wasn't just because San Francisco had gotten too expensive.
The family revealed that in the past, Linda had issues with substance abuse.
Okay, when you say substance abuse, what do you mean?
Crack. She smoked crack.
When we talk about substance use disorder, we're talking about a physical and a psychological addiction. And when we're talking about crack cocaine, we're talking about the addiction in its most powerful, most terrifying force.
According to the family, Linda had beaten the odds and kicked her habit.
Linda was able to build her life back up, start a relationship, things that for her were an enormous triumph.
But was that triumph only temporary?
What the family was concerned about is there was still the possibility that she may have relapsed.
When you have a family member that struggles with substance abuse, that's always going to be a question.
We're gonna do everything in our power to find out what happened to Linda.
You ladies.
After talking to Linda's family, detectives launch a missing persons investigation.
The Oakland police follow up on the information that the family provided. One of the first things they did was to go to Linda's house in order to investigate and search the house for any type of clues that might lead them to her whereabouts.
When the landlord lets them in, everything appears normal.
They didn't see any signs that there had been any sort of incident in the space, no signs of forced entry, no signs that Linda had been pulled from her house.
It was like she had left home.
Her backpack that she usually took with her was gone.
From their search, police are leaving with no real clues as to what happened to Linda or where she might be at.
Nothing.
The house an apparent dead end. Detectives ask Eric to come in for a statement.
The police turn to who the police always turn to first, which is the significant other of the person who is missing.
Eric shows up to the police department, willingly participates in the interview.
So, did you find anything out about Linda? I'm afraid not.
Eric Mora seems to be very concerned and worried about his girlfriend.
But as detectives question him, they can't help but notice something.
He had what it seemed to be fresh scratches on his hands.
That heightened that level of suspicion.
So what happened there?
I've been sanding the floors of my house. I should have hired someone.
It seems reasonable.
Still, detectives are suspicious.
But at the same time, Eric seemed to be willing to cooperate with the investigation.
He talks to investigators at length about he and Linda's relationship, tells the police intimate details.
I was afraid something like this was going to happen. What do you mean?
He tells them that, he and Linda were in love, but that in recent times, that love has had to face some serious challenges because Linda has backslid into a lifestyle that he thought that she had left behind.
He said that she had started using crack again.
A relapse is exactly what Linda's family had feared.
I tried to get her to go to rehab, but it was hard.
It's a painful process because it leaves your loved ones feeling helpless.
However, according to Eric, the crack isn't all he's worried about.
And the stuff she's been doing, It's scary.
Stuff, like other drugs.
No, it's not that. I told her I wouldn't give her any more money.
According to Eric, she found another way to feed her addiction.
He said she was a prostitute.
Stay with us, because what unfolds next is going to transform everything you thought you knew about this story.
Linda Alonzo's boyfriend, Eric Mora, hasn't just confirmed her family's fear that the former addict is using again. He informs detectives the situation is even worse than they imagined.
He said that to pay for that addiction, she had started doing sex work.
He was trying to stop her from selling her body, but she wouldn't stop.
He also says that Linda kept her relapse and how she was funding it a secret from her family.
The secrecy is common because there's a lot of guilt and shame for the person that's struggling with the addiction.
Eric's news of just how far Linda has relapsed adds a new layer of urgency to the missing persons investigation.
It's not unusual for prostitutes and addicts to become victims of foul play.
She could have gone off into an underworld of drug addiction to never be seen again.
When did you see Linda last?
Saturday morning. Please, is there anything I can do, to keep you here?
I'm going.
He told the police that he had given her $40 and dropped her off in West Oakland.
I knew I shouldn't have given her that money, but I didn't know what else to do.
He knew full and well that she was going to use that money to beat this addiction that had a grip on her life. But he had so much love for her, he was hopeful that by him giving her that money, she wouldn't have to go and sell herself.
When you're in a long-term romantic relationship with someone and they relapse back into addiction, it feels so painful. You feel helpless. You're worried about enabling them, but what you really don't want is for them to be in unsafe situations. And so it makes sense that you may want to reduce the risk by providing the resource that the person needs if they're going to do it anyway.
I thought she'd be back in a day or two.
Eric told detectives that Linda had disappeared like this before.
But she had always come back.
And despite her addiction, he's continued to remain by her side, but yet understood that the addiction had complete control of her.
I thought I was helping.
He was just trying to be her crutch in this moment.
Whenever a person is enabling a loved one, it's because they love them and they're really doing what they think is best to support them.
Now detectives wonder whether Eric's misguided attempt to keep Linda safe had led to her disappearance. Or worse.
West Oakland definitely has far more crime, far more street crime, far more violent crime.
There's some areas that have what we call the projects. And over there, because of the poverty and the lack of opportunities, you get a lot of drug trafficking. And drug trafficking brings in robberies, and robbery brings in assaults.
That's all we have for you. You're free to go.
You can follow me.
After detectives talk to Eric, the search for Linda takes the police to the streets.
It put out an APB for officers to be on the lookout for her.
Oakland PD broadened the scope of their investigation. They start using the resources, patrol officers, patrolling up and down streets where prostitution is known to occur, beating the streets for all the information they can, looking for leads.
Hi, yes. Do you have a Cynthia?
Detectives also check with area hospitals and jails.
There was still a possibility that she overdosed, or she could have been picked up for drugs or prostitution.
Unfortunately, the police learned nothing. Despite all the efforts, no one has seen Linda. Linda has seemingly disappeared without a trace.
Or is it possible that she's in hiding?
Sometimes somebody doesn't want to be found because they are somewhere doing drugs, because they are with someone who is paying them for sex work or other work, because they have re-entered a life that they had left, and they're ashamed and they don't want their family or friends to know. And I am sure that all of these things crossed the police officer's mind.
Empty-handed so far, detectives reach out to Linda's circle of Oakland friends.
These were people who didn't necessarily know or communicate with Linda's family in San Francisco.
They are surprised to learn that the story that Eric has is something totally different than the story that her friends have to share.
None of Linda's friends say they ever saw signs of a drug relapse.
No.
And that isn't the only contradiction to Eric's story.
Friends of Linda's believe that Eric might not be as perfect as he seemed initially.
They share with investigators that, yes, the relationship between Linda and Eric started off as a fairy tale, but at some point in time, turned into more of a nightmare.
Wait, so it wasn't drugs?
No, not at all. It was Eric.
Nothing wrong with me going out with my friends. Yes, I am.
They start to get more details on their relationship and that their relationship was not good.
According to what Linda told her friends, Eric had become controlling and jealous.
He acted like he owned her.
But that wasn't the worst of it.
She was saying that she was not sure if she felt safe around Eric.
Really? She told me that he would sometimes hit her.
Stay tuned. What really happened that day is beginning to take shape. This is the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
Our HBCUs have a legacy that's straight up golden. And McDonald's is proud to help keep it that way. Since 2021, the Golden Arches has connected with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund to provide $1 million in scholarships for students headed to our HBCUs. That kind of cash helps keep bright minds on the yard, dreams within reach, and the future golden. Learn more about McDonald's Black and Positively Golden scholarships at mcdblackscholars.com.
A friend of Linda Alonso has just told detectives investigating her disappearance a very different story than the one they got from the missing woman's boyfriend, Eric Mora.
He acted like he owned her.
Before her disappearance, Linda told her friends about wanting to leave Eric and that their relationship was not good and, in fact, abusive.
In his statement to police, Eric had told detectives that Linda, a former addict, had a recent relapse.
Eric's statement fit with what Linda's family told them about her past.
The family had to be very frank and honest and disclose to the police about her history of drug abuse.
But now, detectives wonder if Eric had been counting on that.
It sounds like some of those vulnerabilities are what was leveraged by Eric.
The fact that Linda had not told her family about the abuse is not all that uncommon.
Something that is seen in a lot of cases involving domestic abuse is that the victim will tell kind of random people like their neighbors, but they won't tell their immediate family.
You don't want their judgment. You don't want them to echo what you're already saying to yourself. It can feel disheartening and absolutely demoralizing when you start noticing that this may not be the storybook romance that you were looking for.
And if what Linda told her friends about Eric's abuse is true, could that ultimately explain her disappearance?
Abusers almost never start their abuse off on 10. More likely than not, boundaries are tested and pushed progressively over time. And then the escalation of violence.
For a victim of domestic violence, trying to get out of a relationship is the most dangerous time.
The aggressor or perpetrator of domestic violence is always struggling with some degree of control. When you're in a situation where you're feeling rejected by the person that you feel that you have control over, they do whatever is necessary to regain that control.
Is that what happened in Linda's case?
When Eric initially sat down with detectives, he had suspicious scratches on his hands.
He said he was sanding the floor for some unknown reason.
But now that more than a week has gone by with no word from Linda or leads on her whereabouts, detectives aren't so sure.
Perhaps this was not a missing persons investigation after all.
This smells like a homicide.
Hoping for more information about Eric and Linda's relationship, detectives return to her neighborhood and start knocking on doors.
Talking to Linda's neighbors, police learn a very important piece of information.
Excuse me, ma'am.
They spoke with a neighbor who was certain that she'd seen Linda getting into Eric's car on Thanksgiving Day.
You're certain it was Thanksgiving?
Positive. I was expecting family. So when I heard a car pull up outside, I looked out to see if it was them.
And you're sure it was Linda and Eric?
Definitely.
This is in direct contradiction to what Eric has said.
Eric had told police and told Linda's family that he had not seen her in some time.
The neighbor says that when she saw Linda get in the car with Eric that afternoon, she assumed they were heading across the Bay Bridge to San Francisco.
She told her neighbors that she was excited, looking forward to spending Thanksgiving at her mother's house.
Instead, that was the last time anyone had seen Linda.
Armed with this new information, investigators began to take a closer look at Eric.
They were eventually able to get a search warrant for Eric's home in the Oakland Hills.
Question is, after 4 weeks, will they even find anything?
As we all know, that means forensic evidence is far harder to come by.
Despite that, the search does raise questions.
There was a carpet that was missing. There was furniture that was missing or had been moved around.
And as he'd said when detectives asked about the scratches on his hands, it appeared that Eric had been sanding his floors.
It didn't look like he was remodeling.
The floor was sanded in a very rushed, messy, incomplete way.
It looks like someone had attempted to clean up a potential crime scene.
Suspecting that's the case, detectives decide to take a closer look.
They call in the crime scene investigators, who come in with their technology.
One of the first things the CSI techs do is spray the walls around the sanded area with luminol.
Luminol under fluorescent light will reveal where blood stains were previously cleaned.
And in this case, it appeared to confirm that the detectives were dealing with a homicide.
They find traces of blood splatter on the wall of Eric's home.
Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
Our HBCUs have a legacy that's straight up golden. And McDonald's is proud to help keep it that way. Since 2021, the Golden Arches has connected with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund to provide $1 million in scholarships for students headed to our HBCUs. That kind of cash helps keep bright minds on the yard, dreams within reach, and the future golden. Learn more about McDonald's Black and Positively Golden scholarships at mcdblackscholars.com.
More than a month after Linda Alonzo mysteriously disappeared, Oakland police have found their first clear indication that she may have been murdered.
When they searched Eric's upscale home in Oakland Hills, they discovered blood spattered on the walls.
And according to a neighbor, they last saw Linda getting into Eric's car on Thanksgiving Day, just a few hours before she went missing.
Eric told investigators that he hadn't seen Linda for 4 days leading up to Thanksgiving.
However, they will need more to make an arrest.
The CSI team took samples of the blood on the walls of Eric's house.
They then send them to the lab for analysis.
When they will get the results is anyone's guess.
Back in this point in time, DNA took a number of weeks, up to months, to process before the police department would get back the results.
Several months go by before detectives finally get the evidence they need.
The DNA test discovered that the blood on Eric's wall was a match for Linda.
There was enough forensic evidence based on those lab results that they were able to get an arrest warrant.
But when they go to make the arrest, detectives hit another snag.
Eric wasn't at home.
In fact, the fancy house in the Oakland Hills that Linda had been so impressed with wasn't even his anymore.
He had sold it and apparently skipped town.
Was he on the run? Was he just taking a trip? Nobody knew.
Months go by without any sign of their suspect or any evidence indicating where he'd gone.
Eric dropped completely off the radar.
It's not until February of 2007, more than 2 years after Linda went missing, that detectives finally get a tip that Eric has been spotted.
They located their person of interest on the Jack London waterfront, right here in Oakland.
They were able to bring him in for questioning.
This time, when investigators talked to Eric, it wasn't as pleasant as the first time. They didn't consider him to be the doting boyfriend who had stood by Linda during all her life's challenges. Instead, police investigators confronted him with the evidence.
We found Linda's blood at your house.
I can explain that.
He said that someone had broken into his house in the middle of the night.
About a month before Linda's disappearance.
Eric claims Linda surprised the intruder, and he pistol whipped her before fleeing the scene.
So all of that blood and all that stuff must have been from the home invasion.
The detectives are skeptical.
This was the first time Eric had ever said anything about a home invasion.
They confronted Eric with the testimony that the neighbors saw Eric and Linda together as Linda was getting into his car on Thanksgiving.
It wasn't me, I swear.
He claimed he didn't know where Linda was. He hadn't seen Linda, and he did not kill her.
Then why'd you leave town?
I had to.
His answer was that he was in fear for his life, that Linda's family was threatening him, that they believed, mistakenly, he said, that he was somehow involved in her disappearance, and he was afraid that they were going to hurt him.
I had to leave town.
He seems to have an answer and a story for everything.
Not that detectives are buying any of it.
It's pretty clear that Eric is the killer.
Want to stand up?
At the end of the interview, they booked him on murder charges.
However, the police and prosecutors know they are a long way from a murder conviction.
The case against Eric was fairly circumstantial at this point.
Physical evidence is everything.
And there's one major piece of evidence that's still missing.
There wasn't a body.
Not having a body is very challenging for a prosecutor. One of the biggest pieces of a case is how was the person killed? And if you don't have a body, you're not going to know what happened to her.
But what if there was someone who knew the truth?
While Eric was in jail, a friend of Linda's family was also in lockup at that time.
That friend got in contact with the detectives.
Get your hands off of me!
Still on me. A woman is missing. Calls have gone unanswered, and now the search for answers is now underway. Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
Police in Oakland, California have built a strong circumstantial case that Eric Mora murdered his missing girlfriend, Linda Alonzo.
They found Linda's blood inside of his house, and friends said it was an abusive relationship.
Most of all, A neighbor had seen Linda get into Eric's car just hours before she went missing.
That directly contradicted the story that Eric had tried to feed to the investigators.
But without a confession or Linda's body, a conviction was far from assured.
Any prosecutor you talk to will tell you that it is extremely hard without a body.
But before the case goes to trial, the detectives catch a lucky break.
They're contacted by a jailhouse informant who said that Eric offered to pay him money to back up his story.
Eric offered this person $1,000 if he would back up Eric's claims that Linda had left home prior to Thanksgiving, that Linda was on the streets, and that Eric had nothing to do with it.
But instead of testifying for Eric, he'd gone straight to detectives.
This informant was a friend of her family. He wanted to get all of this information and find out what really happened.
He never actually said anything about him actually murdering her. I don't remember anything concrete, but he alluded to the fact that she was dead.
All the informant knew was that Linda's body wasn't anywhere around Eric's house.
He's like, I'm not that stupid.
And according to the informant, Eric never said exactly why he'd killed her.
I said, how did he put it? That they got into some type of spat or something.
It's as close to a confession as the detectives are likely to get.
The prosecutors knew it was far from a slam dunk case.
When the case goes to trial in 2012, the prosecution theorizes that Eric and Linda's spat started when she told him the relationship was over.
What do you mean we're done? I don't want to be with you no more. I just want to be free. I'm done.
In that moment, he's losing control. It makes sense that he may snap. He may see red.
Get your hands off of me.
So in an act to exert that control over her, he resorted to violence.
Get your hands off of me.
But since the prosecutors don't have Linda's body or know precisely how Eric killed her, will their theory of how the crime occurred convince the jury?
When a jury listened to the inconsistencies in Eric's statements, the DNA and the blood splatter in his home, the witness testimony that said that the last time that Linda was saw alive was with Eric, a jury of his peers convicted him for the murder.
The judge sentences Eric to 15 years to life in prison.
But the story wasn't over. Eric appealed this conviction.
Ultimately, the court overturns his conviction in 2016.
They concluded that the trial judge had wrongfully barred the defense from bringing forward any other suspects.
When a conviction is overturned, prosecutors have the option of moving forward with the new trial. And that's always extremely difficult.
But the prosecutors won't need to go back to trial.
More than a decade after Linda's disappearance, Eric was ready to come clean for a price.
He wanted to cut a deal. He told prosecutors that he would confess to the crimes if they would give him a sweetheart deal. 11 years in exchange for telling them where they could find her body.
Despite the drastic reduction in sentence, the prosecutors make the deal.
Is it worthwhile to offer them a much lesser sentence for retrieval of the body? In most cases, the answer to that is yes. That closure aspect of it is, that's key.
Although what Eric tells them provides little comfort for Linda's family.
He said that after the murder, he wrapped Linda's body in a tarp and buried her in a shallow grave on the grounds of the decommissioned Oakland Army base.
It's a fairly desolate industrial area, in Oakland, not that far from the freeway.
Detectives organize an extensive search for Linda's remains. But after weeks of painstaking effort, they come up empty-handed.
And they were unable to give the family closure or Linda the proper burial she deserved.
The fact that prosecutors allowed Eric's plea deal to stand only added to the family's disappointment.
He could be up for parole in 2025 and back out there. This is someone who killed his girlfriend of 2 years, the mother of 5 children.
But in May of 2022, just as the family is losing hope that Linda will ever be found, a construction crew working on the old army base makes a shocking discovery.
They stumbled upon a shallow grave that contained a body.
It looked like Eric may have told the truth, after all.
Forensic testing confirms the body is that of Linda Alonzo.
It took 18 years, but Linda is no longer missing.
There isn't a word for this combination of relief and sadness that I'm sure the friends and family felt when the body was found. On one hand, their hope that she might still be alive is gone, but there's the relief of being able to finally put her to rest.
I'm hopeful that it has brought them a sense of peace that they did not otherwise have.
As the story comes to a close, some answers may be clear, but the weight of what happened remains. What should have been an ordinary day became something unimaginable, a loss that reaches far beyond a single moment. Cynthia, Linda, Alonzo, a mother, a daughter, a cousin, a grandmother, was deeply loved and will never be forgotten. Her absence is felt in the lives she touched, in the family she held close, and in the memories that remain, and she will be deeply missed.
Abuse is never okay. If you or someone you love is in an abusive relationship, there is help available. Call the Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE.
Coming up on the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
They were a young couple in love.
They hit it off from the beginning. These two young people seem to have it all together.
They had a bright future ahead of them.
Until it all went up in smoke.
911 received a frantic call.
911. The apartment was on fire.
His girlfriend is stuck inside.
Please, send someone, hurry up!
A family in Phoenix, Arizona, on the verge of a new chapter, finds their future abruptly disrupted. What begins as a devastating and seemingly unexplainable accident quickly raises deeper questions. As the dust settles, the truth doesn't align, and what is uncovered next starts to change everything. Tune in to the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast. We will see you in the next episode.